Good morning, everybody. Clinton here with Oval Window Racing. Today, the topic is going to be exhaust manifold gaskets. With this turbo, I've been experiencing exhaust leaks. What I've been running are these gaskets here. I pick them up at my local Volkswagen dune buggy shop around town, and it's kind of this fiber gasket. Looks like there's a like a steel center. Now these so far have been the longest I can get to last, and I tried some that were kind of opposite, that were like two pieces of tin with fiber in the center, and I don't even think I made it around the block with those. But so far, you know, I'm kind of at the mercy of the local shops around here, and these actually worked pretty good. I can get several miles on them, but eventually they do leak. And when I went to the do some more testing and tuning last Wednesday, I wound up having one that started leaking. It starts with this little tiny tick, and then it gets a little more and a little more. And I believe it was this culprit here on number 4. I've already replaced the two up on the underneath the car, cylinder 1 and 3, and I found this product here over at CB Performance. Get a good look at it. This is what they call their graphite compressed gasket. They start out like a 1/8 of an inch, and they're supposed to squeeze down. Here, I'll open one up to get a better look at it. They're really thick. They're kind of smooth feeling, and they did compress. And so far, I haven't had a problem with them. One thing I did notice with these gaskets, they actually do work pretty good, except for some reason the nuts kind of vibrate off. And on the write-up on these things here, they say there's no need to retighten your nuts. So apparently, when you compress them down, they must have a little kind of a springing action back. And I've been checking them periodically, and the nuts periodically, and they seem to be staying tight. And got one more product here to show you. Let me grab it. Here's another product I found. It says RS Radkey Services. They're a 12mm chromoly nut, and I've seen these on the CB's website, but I decided to purchase these from eBay. These are just a little nut. I haven't tried them yet. Oh, they are shrunk wrap. Haven't tried these yet. The gaskets that are up underneath, I got these after I installed those, but they're just a neat little nut. I'll try putting these on today and see how they work. And just as always, if there's a gasket out there that I'm not unaware of, or if anybody has ideas on keeping these nuts on the exhaust studs, let me know. You know, this car does see street use, and this year I put quite a few miles on it, just driving around back roads and around town here, and it's a lot of fun. But when you got to keep tightening things down, it becomes kind of a nuisance sometimes. But you know, that is the pleasure of driving these old cars. You do have to do maintenance on them. So let's get started. Gotta like zip ties. Zip tie, a hammer, and a duct tape. Fix anything, right? Alright, this side I believe is the culprit. I'm going to talk about with these nuts here. They're really tight to fit. Of course, the top ones are easy to get at. It's always that bottom one. This is a CB Performance header. Of course, with my makeshift exhaust. I think I got a 12mm And if you use a 12mm wrench, it works better. It's a 13. There's the 12. If I remember correctly, this one kind of has to come off with the header. I don't think there's enough room between the bend and the header to completely unscrew it. So it means I'll have to work on the other side. I'm hoping with those new fancy nuts that I'll be able to get a wrench in here and help tighten them down a little bit better. If not, I'll be back to this old 11mm, 12mm wrench nut, which seems to do the trick. Maybe I'll have to work on the other side. As I'm working on this, might as well give you guys an update on how my test and tune went last week. Test and tune went pretty good. I learned some stuff. I didn't set any ET records. I did manage to hit 109.25 miles. That's my fastest. I think it was 109.9. So it's almost 110. But what I went there mainly for was to work on the launch. And I know the big wheelies are cool, but they do slow you down. And as high as I was getting, coming down kind of hard, it could be destructive. You guys probably want to see what I'm doing over here. Working on this side over here. There's my O2 sensor. Get that up out of the way. Launch number 1. I went and I was launching the week before. I think the lowest I was at was 5,200 RPMs. I wound up trying 4,200 RPM launch, and still stood the car up. Nice big high wheelie, except for apparently didn't get my burnout good enough. I actually, for the first time, the car turned left on me when I was up in the air, and I've never had that happen. It was a little fun experience. Of course, the ET didn't really turn out really well. I think it had somewhere between it was probably about a 1.6 to 1.7 60-foot time. So past number 2. I tried 3,200 RPM launch, and the car actually bogged off the line, so thought that was kind of good to know where the bog point was. Sure, I had to get my time slips out. I think I did hit 109 in that pass. Pass number 3, set at 3,700 RPMs, and the car left great. My buddy said it was the car picked the front tires up about 1.5 feet, and the car actually launched forward, which the time slip did show that everything went well. I actually did my best ever 60-foot time at a 1.50. Except for the driver, me, missed second gear. So I still wound up running a 1267 at 109 mile an hour. But the difference between that pass and the bog pass that I ran at 1263, hitting all the gears, that 60-foot was a 1.8, and this 60-foot was a 1.5. So if I wouldn't have missed that second gear, I probably would have broke my personal best ET. So thinking I had it all set, pass number 4, went back up to the line after everything was cooled down, and car stood right back up at 3,700 RPMs. And then it came down really hard, and for some reason, well, I know the reason now, I couldn't get the well, after the car set down really hard, it wouldn't go past 5,000 RPMs. So I didn't know if a landing broke something, or something got rattled loose. So I went back, and of course I didn't run the full quarter mile. And I went back in the pits and looked at it for a little bit, trying to figure out what was going on, and I couldn't figure it out at the track. That passed. I decided I didn't want to change anything on the launch, but I did make a couple of changes up on the upper RPM. They had a little more fuel in a couple of spots, and up the timing just a tad in a few spots. So back in the pits, I set the timing back to where it was, thinking maybe that was it, and that didn't help. Tightened up injector brackets. That didn't seem to help, and basically left the track scratching my head. Giving the car a couple of days to relax and me a couple of days to cool down. I came out and started doing the visual inspection, and that's kind of when I discovered that this exhaust leak was leaking, or this exhaust gasket was leaking. Went back in and started looking at the software. I thought maybe it could have been the tooth gear here. I don't know what, getting old, or the gap or something. But I went back in, looked at software, and I didn't have any lost sync issues. So I went back to the fuel, and for some reason, I think I had four cells in the fuel table that were like set super high. So some guy with some fat fingers put in 258. I don't know if I added 200 accidentally, but it should have been roughly around 96. So basically the car was coming up to that RPM and pressure range, and it was just flooding itself. I changed it back to about 96. Took the car for a drive around the block, and it was like it was before. So live and learn. I got to remember, I'm getting old. Eyes aren't what they used to be. I have a hard time seeing the computer screen. I just got to remember to bring some cheater glasses with me so I can actually read some small numbers. But anyways, here we are with the header. We're just going to try to bring it back enough to where make sure everything's disconnected. Probably need to disconnect this tube here before. I don't know if there's enough. There might be enough play. I just need to get these gaskets out. Got a jack underneath here. Oh yeah, I might be able to do this. Actually, looks like that one just come apart. But this one here, you can see. Let's zoom in down here a little bit. You can kind of see where it's burnt right down around there. That's where my leak was. This one here just pulled apart. And you do that when they get hot and you take the header apart. But I think I can probably change those out without removing the air intake. Let's get that done. Here's the CB gasket. This is one that was on the J-pipe. Looks like I can get away with reusing that again. Alright, got everything cleaned up. Now it's time to install the new gaskets. I've noticed with these when I installed them last time that they seem to have an awful lot of play here on the studs. I got the ones for the size header I have here, but what I may be thinking is they did that because of the gasket compresses, so they need some expansion room. But when you got a ported head, it's real tricky to make sure that they stay centered. The last thing you want is an exhaust leak. That's why we're putting the new ones on there. Come on. Alright, got that loosened up. Here we go. Basically, what I've just been doing the last ones, I just kind of go by feel and make sure they're centered on there. And start tightening things down. But you need to get the new nuts. Well, these seem to take a 12-point 10 millimeter wrench. And I'm hoping I'll be able to squeeze that in on this bottom one so we get everything nice and tight. If not, we're going to have to change out the bottom ones, put the 11 millimeter back in. That works nicely. Now since I got the 5,000 RPM thing figured out. The old track, of course, still to beat the 1241 at 108 mile an hour ET, and then go from there. But I think the next thing I'm going to try is actually changing the front shocks. I put a 9010 shock on them, drag shock on them years back, and those were used when I bought them, and then I've been pretty hard on them, and just seems, yeah, see, that's not going to fit underneath there still. I don't think I'm going to be able to tighten anything because it's 12. What about on this side? Actually, does fit on this side. That one over there is just a little too tight. We're going to have to back her off and put that 11 millimeter nut back in there. Now, I think that one's going to fit. Let's give it another shot. Nope. That one over there is pretty tight bend. But yeah, the 9010 shocks I bought used. They're actually off of a Dodge Dart, but just seems like the car keeps hitting harder and harder. So I'm thinking, when I drive it around too, it seems to make a little more noise. So, time for some new shocks. I think right now I'm just going to put my air shocks back, or gas shocks back on, and see if that may slow the ascent rate of the front end. And then of course, in the near future, I'm going to be swapping those out. You know, do a review video on those. Mario over at the Dub Shop, he's got a nice looking product that he's been working on. I don't know if they're ready for sale yet, but he takes like an IDF manifold and machines them down, fits them with a plenum, and they kind of go right back into the stock location. My worry is the spark plugs getting at those. He's assuring me that they fit just fine. I'll have no problem. And of course, this Frankenstein looking muffler needs to be changed out. It's 2-inch. I think I want to try a 2.5-inch, and with a nice V-band. Yeah, these nuts are a lot nicer to work with. You get a lot more choices for wrench position. They may have a different open-end wrench to work with. To look into that. 10 ain't gonna work. I don't want to get too tight. I've still got the lower J pipes to worry about. Oh yeah, I like these nuts a lot better. You get way more choices of wrench position. Get on there good and be able to torque and tighten them right down. Even though this seems like it's taken forever, but it's even longer if you don't have this type of nut. So you're only able to move the nut a little ways. Doing it the other way. 6-sided nut. You can never get the 13 millimeter on them, or even the 11 or 12 millimeters. As you can see, this 10 millimeter wrench has just barely got enough clearance on this. I believe it's a 1 5/8 exhaust. It'd be a little bit more if you had a 1.5-inch exhaust. You'd probably get away. Toy. The bottom one is. All right, back to these. that sounds much better. No more tick, 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 tick. I'll have to say I am impressed with these CB Performance exhaust manifold gaskets. On the website it's claimed that if you have a rough surface, they would work good for, and also great for a turbo application. On the writing on the back here, it also says that the gasket is good up to 3,000 degrees, so I believe your heads would be liquid way before that. So yeah, I took the ones off the J-pipes down. I was able to reuse the ones on the J-pipes down there, but they don't see the same heat that the gaskets up by the exhaust manifold port does, coming right out of the head. So I don't know what those are going to be like until I eventually tear this down again. Hopefully they last more than one season. I've got a good feeling they will. Now these nuts, 12-point nuts here, I did like using those too. I gotta look and see if there's some type of an open end wrench that I could operate them with. If there is, I can actually put the one that's on that tube with the tight bend on it. But other than that, it's time to start driving and testing the car again and get back to the track. And the next time I'm going to be at the track will probably be at the Martin 131 Bug Run on October 5th. So if you guys got nothing going on that weekend, happens to be a Saturday this year, come on out and check the Volkswagens out. But until then, stay safe, keep the flat side down and the shiny side up.